Welcome back to the Stick 'em Up podcast. Brundi, unfortunately, the Nashville Predators have been eliminated from playoff contention. I know you were holding out hope, but mathematically they can't make it.
No one was.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to have to tell you this.
To be fair, they did it to themselves. There's a lot of things they could have done earlier on in the season, and I mean, I guess respect to them. They tried to ride it out and hope it would turn around, and
Who's themselves? The coaching staff, the GM, the players?
I think everything. I think it's just everything all into one. Like,
Fair.
I think there's just so many issues all over the place, and it kind of. I don't want to say it necessarily got worse, but it never got better. Well, I mean, in
Yeah.
fairness, I don't think it really could have gotten any worse. I think are they still third last?
If they're not,
Yeah,
they're pretty freaking close.
like third last in the league. The only teams they're ahead of is Chicago and San Jose. Like, and we
That's
knew
such
that
a
was gonna
low
be
bar.
we knew that was gonna be the 1 and 2 bottom teams. So you're the worst team in the league, unfortunately, this season. But um, thankfully, they have their own first round pick, and they got a couple others. So maybe they can make some magic happen this offseason. I don't expect
Yeah.
them to blow it up like like you mentioned to me last week. There's so many guys they have no trade clauses, no movement clause. Like you
They're
got
locked
to make
in.
it work. You've
Unless
got
those
your
guys
core,
really want out, which I could see, but also a lot of them, twilight of their career, I believe Nashville has, I don't think it's no state tax, but I believe it's lower than most places that have it. As well as incredibly well documented, Nashville is just a destination place to live. So I could definitely see a lot of those guys, using that and not moving anywhere. And man, yeah, I've never been a believer. People have been saying it for a couple seasons now. People are always saying, almost similar to the President's Trophy curse. They're like, you don't want to win the offseason. It doesn't work when you win the offseason. What was it? 2 years ago, we saw the summer of Pierre. We saw huge turnaround in Ottawa, and they just did not live up to the hype. And now this year, Nashville, they made the playoffs last year. And they bought all these guys. And now they're sitting here, 62 points in 72 games, a minus 48 goal differential on the season, third last in the league. Like, they're making me believe in the off-season winner curse. I think it depends who you get, and you got to actually dissect what happened in the offseason. But
because I mean, you can make arguments kind of both ways. Like, you look at the other side of it. Like a lot of people, a couple off seasons ago, they said, Florida was the winner simply because they got Matthew Tkachuk. But then you also had people on the other side of that deal being like, well, Calgary's the winner because look at the haul they got back. And
I was on that
we
side.
know the way that it's gone for Florida in the end, and it's been perfect. But like just an insane amount of hype around Nashville. A lot of people were picking them to be the favorite to win the Central Division, and which is a very tough division, and to not again, not only be third last in the league, basically last because it's impossible for anyone other than San Jose or Chicago to be the bottom two. They've just been so bad. Like, and it seeped into the locker room, and hearing the comments like what Luke Shen said before he got shipped out of there, it's a
lot of guys on that team have had some scathing quotes. Like, there's been a lot of guys that are saying stuff that it's like, holy fuck, like that is, you don't hear guys on teams they want to be on saying this shit. Like, I remember, I think it was back in either January, December, Stamkos in an interview said like, I'm trying to remember if I'm misremembering, this is the Shen quote, but like, this is like the first team I've been on that can't score. Like, nobody can score. Was that Shen? Or was that Stamkos? Because I know
No,
Stamkos
yeah,
had
no,
one as well.
that would have been Shen this season.
Okay, I kind of thought so. You know what? I can't remember. I don't want to
I
misquote
do
Stammer.
remember though that yeah, there was I do know I vaguely know what you're talking about. I can't remember like the exact quote,
It
but
was during that November November late October time where it was like, they were still really bad, but like people were expecting like they're going to turn it around, right? Right? Like we're only 2 months in. It can still happen. Like and I was beating the drum that they were going to turn it around longer than most people. I know around mid-November you were giving up on them, and I was
mid
still
December,
part
mid December, I was yeah, I knew it was done.
I can tell you when I gave up on them. I'd have to look up the specific date, but it was when I went to see them play in person against the Flames. And here it was. It was, you know what? I thought it was a little bit later than that. For me, it was pretty soon around November 15th. The Flames beat the Preds 2-0. That was in their last 6 games before that, their third time getting shut out. And I just remember watching that game going like, they have individual talent. These guys look like they not only have they never played together, they look like they don't speak the same language. Like
Yeah,
they were absolutely
it's just bad.
discombobulated out there. Like
It's bad.
and it's wild because you could visibly see if there was no jersey numbers, no names, I could still tell you which guys out there were Roman Yossi and Philip Forsberg because they were the only two guys who showed a shred of chemistry in that whole
Mhm.
lineup. They looked good out there. Like I remember watching a power play. We were like, fairly high up, and we have a good view down, and they got a power play in our end. So like I got to watch that, which with a pretty cool view. And I just remember they were just like, there was guys calling for one timers and they were like leaning in like they were going to get the pass. Pass goes somewhere else. And they were just kind of like throwing up their arms like, wait, what are we doing? And like, as soon as guys are like, okay, fine, now we're going to commit to the pass, all of a sudden, like weird wrist shot that just kind of hits traffic and gets cleared. And like, they just looked so frustrated and confused. It was, it was
Yeah.
so strange to watch because I'm watching these guys on the power play. I'm like, that's a 90-point defenseman. That guy hit 40 goals last year. That guy hit 42 goals last year. Like,
They have a Vezina finalist in the pipes. Like it.
yeah. The game I went to, Saros actually played pretty well,
I mean, yeah, in a two
but
nothing,
on
like
this on the season,
the team's got to score. I mean, and
brutal.
again, right? Like the thing with Nashville is like, yeah, we've been banging the drum about what a disappointing year it is for them, but yeah, on the flip side, you can look at it like you know, at least for Nashville fans, like the Band-Aid has already been ripped off, like probably since January 1st. They knew they weren't going on a St. Louis Blues run. Um, or even kind of similar to what Nashville did last year in that
Blues in
incredible run.
2019 or Blues this year?
Well, yeah, we'll get to them, but
We'll get to them.
they knew they were done, and that allowed them to hold on to their draft picks that they have. Like we mentioned, they have 3 first rounders this year, including their own. So if there's no movement, similar to last year, if you end up with a top 3 pick, like you're getting a really good prospect that um, maybe will take a year to develop. Maybe with the talent and the veteran leadership you have, maybe that's a guy you can immediately bring into your lineup next year and can be an effective player. And then you have those 2 other first round picks, and it's a maybe a bit of a it's not as strong of a draft like it was last year or like next year's going to be. So maybe you use those 2 firsts, and I believe it's Vegas's first and Tampa's first, so probably 2
Yep.
later first. So
Yeah.
do you trade them and get maybe more established players now? Do you package those 2 picks together to move up to get another guy? Um, there's so many different options for them, and again, the biggest thing is like, yeah, you probably were hoping to be in the playoffs this year, um, but odds are, as long as you don't fall to 5th overall, and even at 5th overall, you're still getting a good player. But if you stay in that top 3 at 3rd overall, you're getting a hell of a player. If you jump up to 1st or 2nd, you're getting a hell of a player. Um, they're going to have the most interesting offseason, in my opinion, because basically, what direction do you go in? Do you, you know, keep the mindset of, look what we did last offseason, we're all in, or, the position you're in now, do you start to do a retool? Do you just blow it up, rebuild? Like, it's, I assume they're probably still going to try and ride it out with their guys because, like we said, a lot of them have no movement clauses, no trade clauses. And I think if the plan was to rebuild, you would have done it at the deadline. You would have already started blowing up the team more.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what they do. But tough sledding this season for them, no doubt.
Yeah. And it's actually too bad that they're not doing better because they have almost nobody coming off the books next year. Like who's expiring? RFA Luke Evangelista, League Min Jakub Vrana, and League Min Kiefer Bellows. That's their forwards that are expiring. On the back end, Andreas Englund making 1 mil even, and Mark Del Gaizo, UFA Group 6, whatever that means.
Like
those are their only guys expiring this year. Even their goaltenders, both of them are locked up for at least 2. Like, and
the only
actually,
big one was Nyquist, and they moved him.
Yeah, and actually, they do have a couple things expiring. They got the dead cap of Ryan Johansson, 4 mil that they're getting for free this offseason. 1.6 mil from Nyquist's his retention, and another year off of Ekholm. Like, there's 8 things coming off the books, and 3 of them are retained salary next year. So if this team was good, they were set up to if they won the cup, they're one of those teams that they built for this 2-year window to go back to back. Like they set up for these 2 years to be great. So it really sucks that it's gone badly because they're locked in for next year a decent bit as well.
And again, where they're at right now, yeah, it does suck. But as tough as it is, you would rather be in this position than missing out on the playoffs by like 4 points. I'm always in the mindset of like, like at this point, if you're gonna miss, you might as well get the best pick possible.
I 90% of the time I'm on that side for sure, but I don't know about this team. Like a first round pick, I guess it's going to be a pretty good pick, but
and that's the thing. Like if
is he going to affect them next year? Maybe,
potentially,
probably not.
There's a couple guys that I think on this Nashville team you could slide in and they could be very effective. And again, that's the biggest thing is who do they go with, right? Like it kind of is starting to look like there's a 1 and 2 in the draft, and then at this point, honestly,
how far has Hagen's fallen? Nobody's talking about him, man.
A lot of people think he falls outside the top 3. I think he probably is that kind of 3rd overall. But again, like it's what do you prefer? Right.
Yeah.
If you're Nashville, like what do you need? Do you take a big power forward winger? Do you take the maybe slightly undersized center with a lot of skill? Do you go off the board and do you get a big defenseman?
They might want a defenseman. Their 3rd highest paid defenseman is Jeremy Lauzon, making 2 mil a year.
Yeah, and there's a riser in the draft for a defenseman. So and that's what makes it kind of exciting with a team like Nashville. And there is they could turn the whole draft upside down by their pick, kind of similar to what Anaheim did last year. So I mean, like,
yeah,
and then it just gives you more freedom to then those other 2 first, like you can do whatever you want with them. I don't think you use both of them. The Vegas Tampa to draft. I think you package them and move up for another pick, or you at least move one of them to get something else, whatever that may be. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what team is in the top 10 that necessarily is looking to move that, but I definitely agree. If you can find a team that you can move up with those 2 later firsts, I think that's probably in their best interest. I don't think they need a ton of guys to draft. And I don't think they need guys that will be available later in the first that might take 4 or 5 years to get to the NHL. They need help sooner rather than later.
Yeah,
Like,
like their window is now. Like
so
those guys might be good in 4 or 5 years. They could be great players. But at that point, you're probably starting a rebuild.
yeah. And now they're in
And
that awkward phase where they're 5 years ahead of the next guy who's going to get drafted.
yeah. Yeah, those guys are kind of playing their rookie year being like, we know eventually we're gonna get moved because this is gonna be a long rebuild and
Yeah. You know you're going to get moved right before the team gets good.
yeah.
Brutal.
But moving on from Nashville, let's go to their other divisional opponent, the Winnipeg Jets. They are the first team in the Western Conference to clinch a playoff spot. Um,
Did they do that by beating the Caps?
yeah, they did. Yeah, in overtime. This Winnipeg team is, um, it's just so incredible. You know, they're very similar to Washington. It's like they're the best team in their conference, but like when you look at it on paper, like it's not this big juggernaut of a team. But the way that they're playing, the way that you can roll 4 lines, 3 defensive pairings, um, you most likely are gonna have the Vezina winning goalie on your team this season, which obviously does help.
Yeah.
It's
Vesna
you know,
finalists for on both sides, most
it's
likely.
it's a little bit worrisome because of what we saw last year in the playoffs, and how that went for them. And you look at previous trade deadlines, the moves they made would be like, okay, yeah, like that's fine. But when you look at, the way that the market was, and especially more than anything, how much teams in their division, like Colorado, like Dallas, were beefing up, kind of underwhelming for Winnipeg. But again, it's like Washington. If you got what you got and it's working, it's rolling, you're the top team, don't mess with it too much, right? So
Yeah.
they're gonna be a very interesting team come playoff time, I think, because they could sweep their first round opponent. They could get swept. It could go 7. Like it could go any way. Like we really don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
And like you said, I feel the exact same way about the Capitals. Like it it's a goofy thing to say because one's got a guy who's damn near a lock for the Vesna, and the other has a guy trying to beat Gretzky's goal scoring record. But it feels like these teams don't have that super bona fide star right now. And obviously Ovi was, but like he's not, he's not Nathan McKinnon. He's not one of those top 10 players currently in the league. And I would argue Hellebuck is, but not a forward or a defenseman. Um, and usually we
uh,
see at least one of those guys
I don't
in
know.
on these teams.
Could
You
talk
know,
about with Washington, Jacob Chychrun, 8-year extension, 9 million AAV. I got some stats I want to run by you, and I want you to tell me if you're impressed by these
all right.
for Jacob Chychrun. And this is just among defensemen. This isn't like the team as a whole or the league as a whole. Um, since the 2020-2021 season, which I believe wasn't wasn't the year that COVID shut down. Like that was like the year when it was like the 4 divisions and you play everybody 8
Yes.
times and have
Yeah.
a ball. Since that season, he's third among defensemen in power play goals, only behind Kale McCarr and Roman Yossi. And he's third
Whew.
among defensemen in goals, only behind Kale McCarr, Roman Yossi. This season,
Wow.
among defensemen on his, though just Capitals defensemen, that their team, which there's some good guys, especially John Carlson. Um, he has 6 game-winning goals. That is first on his team, first in the entire NHL. He has 5 power play goals, which is first on his team, tied for second in the NHL. And then he's got 18 goals total on the season. That is first among his team and third in the entire league. I believe, well, obviously, Kale McCarr is ahead of him. I don't know the other defensemen, though.
Um,
Don't know who would have
Zach
more than
Werenski
18.
has over
Zach
20, I believe.
Werenski that would definitely make sense.
I don't know
He's a
what he's
plus
at, but I know he scored
4.
19 and 20 against the Bolts. at least a month ago at this point, so he's probably up there.
Yeah. He's a plus 24. That's tied for second on the Caps, tied for 11th in the league. And then 43 points. That's 16th in the league, which so he's
Damn,
pretty good, considering I believe for the most part, like he's behind John Carlson in terms of power play and whatnot. So
I'm
like
pretty
this is
sure
a
he
guy
is. Yeah,
that is really he's finally found a home. And I'm very happy that a little bit of weird stuff coming out about him after the extension, but dude's having a hell of a season. Definitely earned this extension, maybe a little bit high, but again, the cap's going up like this
I
and the
was
way
gonna
he's
say.
playing. This could look like a contract where like, man, what a steal in
I was
like
gonna say
2
honestly,
years.
yeah. Like,
It's so
we've
tough
been
to tell with
we've been
contracts
talking
right
about this
now.
guy for so long. I just assume that he's at least 30, at least 30 even. Dude is
Mhm.
26 years old, and I guess to be fair, he turns okay. So he turns 27 in 3 days. 27 still pretty young. Like,
Yeah. He's like
oh
he might not even be entering his prime. Like look at Josh Morrissey, right? He was kind of in that spot where it's
yeah,
like, man, this guy's been around for forever, and then you're like, okay, shit, like he's only 27, and all of a sudden, boom, okay, he's now a yearly 70-point defenseman all of a sudden. And
I'm
I'm kind of
I'm
thinking like
just so
Jacob
shocked.
Chychrun's that next guy that's gonna be like that.
I could definitely see it, and this is by far the best team he's played on. Not just because the Caps have really brought it back this year, but the Sens weren't great last year. They were even worse the year before, and then before that, it was Coyotes all the way for his career. And
R.I.P. Coyotes.
I was I was thinking earlier about like we're a bit removed from it now, so we haven't heard about it obviously, but thinking back to how long we heard every single trade deadline, Jacob Chychrun's the big fish. Oh, he doesn't get moved. Jacob Chychrun, Jacob Chychrun. Then he finally moves to the Senators. Immediately, it's not going to work here. When's he going to get moved again? And it's like
Yeah,
I
it's just nice
I
for those
I
guys that like
forgot how good he
they're
was. He
not the
had 18
problem.
goals in 56 games for Arizona in 2020.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? It's tough with those guys when it's always like, oh, they're gonna get moved, and it's like the player's not the problem; it's the team. It's the product of the team. It's the way they're utilizing this player, and then the media tries to like water down this player's value. It's like we know Chikrin's a good player. Put him on a team that will actually let him be himself, let him be the player he's meant to be. And Washington's doing that. And look at it now. You're getting a defenseman like this, and you gave up. I don't want to bash on Nick Jensen, but he's no
I
Jacob Chychrun.
I was gonna say, I
Like at
I
least he's
know
a
a
home
lot of
run for
people
the Caps.
really didn't like that return for the Sens, and I definitely think they could have gotten more. But yeah, I do think Nick Jensen's a good fit there, but he ain't Jacob Chychrun.
Exactly.
He ain't third in the league in goals for a defenseman.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I completely agree. It's very interesting that the 1 and 2 in the East, or the I guess the one in the West and East Washington, Winnipeg is like we don't fully know what to expect from them come playoff time. Like they could easily be the 1 and 2 teams in the league, but they kind of feel like wild cards because we don't know what to necessarily expect from these teams
Yeah, I could see
in the
either of
playoffs.
them going 8-0 in their first 2 rounds, or I could see them getting swept. Like
Yeah.
it really does feel like magic beans right now.
We do got a little bit of, well, I'll let you handle this. We got some Tampa glaze. So I'll let you rattle off your
Yeah, and to
stuff
anyone
here.
listening, like we do like doing a lot of these kind of career achievement things, those shout outs for them, but I think naturally, I see a lot of lightning stuff, you see a lot of shark stuff, we see some flame
Trust me,
stuff and
there's nothing going
other,
on in San
other
Jose.
and
Just
other big
nothing.
ones that show up around the league, Pens fans will get to it for sure. But there's probably quite a few good players that have reached milestones throughout the year that we haven't mentioned. So, if one of your favorite players reaches 500 points, 250, 300 goals, like absolutely let us know and we'll give them the shout out. But um, as far as this one goes, we have the other night, Braden Point scored his 300th career goal uh, on a crazy, I think it was on the power play. Kucherov shoots it, goes off the crossbar, goes flying up into the sky. Everyone thought it went out of bounds, and then it just fell down right in front of him, and he batted it in before it even hit the ice. So that was a pretty wild goal for number 300. And then in the same game, in a absolute demolishing 8-0 over Utah, Kucherov put up his 5th 100-point season, passing Ovechkin for the most as a Russian in NHL history. Which, dude's heating up at the right time.
So I have a thought, and I think you'll probably agree with me on this, because I've seen a lot of people already throwing it out there, and I'm like, no. Well, I'll entertain it one day, but not right now. A
Sure.
lot of people are already saying that Nikita Kucherov is the greatest Russian player of all time. And is it a fair argument? Sure. For me, no, he's not.
I think there
And
will
and
be
it's
an argument.
and it's tough
It's
to say
early.
that when,
It's too
Ovechkin is
early.
literally, like, almost is on the verge of having the most goals all time. What I will say is when all is said and done and both Ovechkin and Kucherov are retired, I do believe Nikita Kucherov will be the best Russian player of all time.
That's more
But
where
but
I'm
it's
at. I
it's
think,
so weird to start a dialogue considering Ovechkin is, like, literally about to
yeah.
set the record, like,
I
but when it's
I
all said
get
and
where they're
done,
coming from
do
for
I
sure.
do expect Kucherov to be um
The best Russian.
the best Russian of all time.
Yeah. I completely agree on both sides there, that you said. I would love to sit here and say that he is the best to ever play, but I mean, he hasn't hit 1,000 career points yet. Like,
Probably one next
his
season,
points
I
per
imagine.
game, unreal. But you know, you got to do it for a prolonged amount of time. I'm on the record of saying I don't think Bobby Orr's the best defenseman of all time, and the number one reason I say that is because longevity is important.
Mhm.
Like, if he played even 4 or 5 more seasons, he probably just keeps racking up Norris's, probably another Hart, maybe an Art Ross because he was a mutant. But you know, Lidstrom played fucking
Longevity is
like
important, yeah.
not like 800 more games than him at an elite level. So,
Mhm.
you know, I love me some Kucherov. I love watching. He's my favorite player to watch play the game right now. But you got to do it for a little bit longer when we're talking on the scale of greatest in your nation's history, especially a
Yeah,
nation that historically pretty damn good at hockey.
yeah.
But
Yeah, but
congrats to
yeah,
him
congrats
on
to
another
your
100-point
point
season.
to Kucherov. I
I'm glad
don't
that he's tightened the
believe
gap on McKinnon, and we're getting an Art Ross race to end the year again, because it does always suck when it's at least 6 points ahead, and it's like it's kind of been wrapped up, and it's a guy has a chance, but like that's only if he goes off for like 4 points twice in a row or something, which these
yeah.
guys are capable of. But it's always fun. I believe the gap is either 2 or 3 points now, and like that
Mhm.
makes it a lot more fun. There's going to be more eyes on Lightning games, more eyes on Avs games to the end of the season. Um,
Yeah.
Really rough for Draisaitl to get this injury at this time that he's had. Is that? Do you think that's enough? Like, that's probably really harshly affecting his heart votes, huh?
Yeah, so we'll quickly get into that. One thing I do wanna say, wait, there actually is another milestone, and I thought this happened
Oh,
a
go
while
for it,
ago, and if you wanna say Sharks glazed, fine, whatever, give me this. Like,
dude. I do
this
so
team
much glazing
sucks.
here. Please glaze
Um,
your team.
Alex Wenberg scored career goal number 100 last night against Toronto. I thought this happened a while ago because he scored, career goal 99 back on December 14th and has
Ooh,
not missed a game since then. So I
Iron Man.
just assumed that happened a while ago. I did not know he went, I think it was 35, 34 games,
Probably
without a
something
goal.
like that.
So, congrats to Alex Wenberg on career goal, number 100 with the Heart. Yeah. So, I have the odds pulled up here, and wherever you're looking, the odds might be different. This is off Bet 365, and an important thing to consider as well for people when you know talking about odds is like, yeah, it's a lot about kind of the chatter out there and what it's sounding like, but us, like if you're betting on it, like you have a say in how the odds go, right? Like Nikita Kucherov, who right now is plus 2,500. If every single person goes and bets on Kucherov, his odds are going to change because they're not going to let everybody just vote on him and just when he's that much of an underdog. It probably won't shift a lot, but it will adjust.
Yeah,
And
and
again,
that's
this is on
that
bet
I was just gonna
365.
say, that's why in the off season, we always see, regardless of who's made what moves, who just won the cup, Toronto every year is usually top 2, always top 3, sometimes top 1 in odds to win the cup because they have a massive fan base and a lot of people are betting on the Leafs to win a cup.
Yeah, I
And
think going in in the middle of the offseason, I think Vegas was like ninth in
yeah,
Stanley
like
Cup odds. It was like, geez, they're like a year removed from winning the cup. Probably if they didn't go up against Dallas in the first round, Vegas probably goes back to the cup final, faces Florida again, I think.
pretty likely.
But yeah, with the Hart, so and they've only got four. Like it's down to it's a 4-horse race, and this is pretty surprising actually. So Kucherov is plus 2,500, Draisaitl is plus 475, McKinnon is plus 210, and then Connor Hellebuck's a minus 135. He's a pretty heavy favorite. Um,
Do you think he's a favorite with the
looking
voters, or do you think it's one of those cases of people have been putting bets on him over the past few months to win the Hart, and
one
it's drove
exactly
his
right.
down?
Like you kind of look at it, and it's a weird season, right? Like how many guys dropped 50 goals last year? We had Matthews at 69 goals, right? Like Leon Draisaitl, assuming he comes back and plays up one or two more games in the regular season, which I expect him to, he'll probably hit 50.
Yeah, he wants
He'll be
50.
he'll be the only 50 goal scorer this season. Maybe McDavid and Eichel go nuts, but again, they're still 10 points out. There's probably only going to be three guys that finish the season with over 100 points, that being McKinnon, Kucherov, Draisaitl. And Draisaitl is, he's in that category for over 100 points. He's going to win the Rocket, and they've still got him behind Hellebuck and McKinnon.
Yeah.
And the Hellebuck one, I think at this point, probably not. If he does, congrats to Hellebuck. That's impressive. And I wouldn't mind it because it would set a new precedent for, what does a goalie need to do to win the Hart, right?
Yeah.
Because like we've talked about before, goal scoring has gone way up from previous years.
Yeah. Trying to find the
Um,
stats on that right now.
so setting a new benchmark would be cool. And then stuff because McKinnon, I mean, what was it? The Avs set the record for like most players rostered in a single season with they're at like 50 something.
Yeah, they went through a
And
lot of guys.
how many guys were rotating in with McKinnon and guys were going in and out of the lineup injuries? Like, they were at a point in time where it was basically McKinnon, Ranton, and Makar having to carry a bunch of guys who had less than 50 games played, and they were winning. And he's at 108 points, and
Yeah,
it's
there's so many
it's
different arguments you can make for each guy. It's
yeah.
maybe not as much as the Calder, where you could make such heavy arguments for all guys as well. But you know,
Even Michkov, he's been
he's been lighting it up
he's
lately.
been lighting it up lately. So
Maybe a little too late, but you know what? I think he's going to have just fine time over in Philadelphia,
yeah,
which we'll get to in a bit. But uh, the goal scoring per game this season, it is at 6.004 goals per game. 6 is a ludicrous number. I have to assume that is both teams combined. And that is down from last year. It is below 2 years ago, and it is also below 3 years ago. Um, so it's higher than the 2020-2021 season, but it is lower than the last 3. So, scoring's been going up in general, but it has come down a little bit this year.
and I will say part of the reason it has fallen is because teams aren't shooting as much.
It is
You
exactly
look at a
that.
lot of
The
games
stats
like
back that up.
Here's games where what was it last night? I'll actually pull it up here. Pretty absurd. I believe it was the LA Boston game where we were robbed of the goalie fight.
Yeah.
LA won that game 7-2. The final shots was 23-13 for LA. So
Whew.
like 9 goals in that game, and
Yeah,
there was
that's a
36
Boston
shots.
problem. But Tampa held Boston to, I think it was 11 shots like 1 week ago. Dude, they're not shooting the puck. For a team with Pasternak, they're not getting on net very much. Um, but yeah, like I just said, the goal scoring has been down over the last 3 years, and that the save percentage is also down despite that. The last 4 years, starting at 2021-2022 season, 907 was the league average. Then 3 years ago, it was 904. Last year, it was 903. This year, it's an even 900. So
Yeah.
the average goal, like when you see a goalie with a 900, that doesn't mean he's bad. That doesn't mean he's a backup. That means he's average. He's replacement level, which is, you know, if he's making league min, that's a good deal.
Mhm.
So some of these goalies, well, I guess there's only 2 of them at the moment that are over 920. That's that's a lot of points above the average.
Who would you pick? Like, if who is your pick for the Hart? Based on what we know right now, because obviously
On
things could
what
change
we
in the
know right
last little
now.
bit, but um, where it stands right now, who would your
Very
guy be?
annoyingly with the Hart, we always have to preface this. Is this who I think is actually going to win it or who I think should win it?
Who you think should win it? Who you think should win?
I think Zach Werenski's fallen off a little bit in the last bit. The whole team has, unfortunately. I'm I'm gonna go with Leon Draisaitl.
Leon Draisaitl?
I've I caught a couple more Edmonton games than I normally would in the past month, and obviously the ones where he was playing. Um, McDavid was not looking like McDavid out there, and Draisaitl was a mutant. He was everywhere, and you had to guard him. If he was taking a shot, somebody had to dive in front, or it's in the back of the net. Like leading the league in goals by that much is pretty goofy. He's right up there in overall points. Like it's not like Matthews last year where he had by far the most goals, but then also was, you know, like 35 points back of the Art Ross. Like he's
Yeah,
right in there for that. And like, I don't want to say he's making McDavid look like a chump out there, but like he's very solidly better than him this year.
he's been Edmonton's best player, no doubt. Yeah,
And the usually in the past when Drysdale would go off, I would go back and watch highlights, watch some of the game, and it'd be like he finished pretty good, but McDavid was still clearly the straw that stirs the drink. Nah, man, that's been Drysdale this year. He's been really freaking good.
he's been really,
He
and
probably gets mine.
that's the beauty of it this year is like I don't think there's a bad option, assuming it's going to be one of those 4 guys that we've mentioned.
Yeah.
Um,
There's honestly like 6 guys you can make a pretty good argument for. Like there's quite a
yeah,
few.
but the way it's looking like it's I'm kind of assuming that it's going to be one of those 4,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
3 of those 4 are going to be fast. I think it's going to be McKinnon, and it's just recycling
Yeah.
the what I said before is,
He's my pick
I
to
mean
actually win it.
the fact he has the most points, they sometimes love to just go with that. But again, with like how injured and how beat up this this Avalanche team is, and the fact that he's still putting up insane numbers, and kind of really had to carry that team through a good stretch to start the season of just with suspensions, numerous injuries. I think what he's done is incredible, and I think it's going to be one of those years where McKinnon gets the Hart, Makar gets the Norris, um, because of what they were able to do and the situations that they kind of had to fight through, and again to be putting up the numbers that they're putting up. But again, you really can't go wrong with any of these guys. Like there's a strong case for all of them.
Yeah.
And guys outside the guys we've talked about that you can make an argument for as well.
But moving on from the Hart Trophy, we got who was I almost bringing up earlier? When we were talking about Michkov having a great game the other day. That was his first game for the Flyers not playing under John Tortorella, as John Tortorella has been hesitantly, I want to say, fired.
It sounds like fired, yeah.
He said step down. They said let go. More and more, it's sounding like he was fired. I think he was fired, but I think he's okay with that. I think he's done there.
That's exactly what he wanted. Like
And
those comments he made, he was like, he was done. He was ready to to be done.
Yeah,
Do you have
I've got the video right here.
Okay.
And yeah, like right there in it. If anyone wants to go look it up, like Flyers posted the video on YouTube. It's the post-game press conference for Tortorella after the Flyers Toronto game on March 25th. It's a minute long, and yeah, he just says straight up, it's on me to make these guys, to give these guys the tools to do better, and I'm just not interested in learning how to coach a team this way at this point in the season.
That's real. Like that's real.
Just straight up saying, like, I'm just not interested in learning how. First of all, you haven't learned how in the first 71 games, but also to just outright say, like, I don't, like, something tells me he kind of knew he was on his way out before this press conference. Either that or something happened and he just snapped and wanted out immediately, and he just said something like that.
I think he kind of knew that he was on his way out, but it was probably going to be like at the end of the regular season.
Right. Like, why not wait another 10 games?
It wouldn't make sense to just fire him with, again, like 10 games left. But I think he kind of saw the writing on the wall and was like, I don't want to be here anymore. Like I'm done. I can't do anything more than what I've done, and that's not going to change in 10 games. So why not, kind of sit there in, last day of school type vibes and, free will, do whatever you want, say whatever you want, you go out and you give them an opportunity. It was assistant coach who is intern for the remainder of the season, Brad Shaw. So I think Tortorella's kind of like, you know what, at this point, if I can't give these guys anything, why not go out and let this other guy come in and have a 10-game trial? 10 games, well. see what you can do with them, see what can happen. Maybe, and it's not like this, Bradshaw's a stranger to Tortorella. Like Tortorella brought him in. That's one of his guys. So he's basically being like, hey man, you have the reins now. This is your big moment. Like, go have this team go on a 9-game heater to end the season or something. Like, make a name for yourself and maybe turn this into you're the full-time coach next year, and this is your team, this is your locker room, and give the players more of a chance. Because like Tortorella said, he couldn't do anything more for them at that point. Like he was checked out, he was done. So I think it works out for both sides.
I think so. I think he wanted out. I think the Flyers need to move on at this point. He helped him get through a rebuild, and he did a great job of that. But I think we're past this point with the Flyers, and
they started off last season and this season pretty good, I think. But then it was like there was just that one moment where it's just
they had a big losing streak in late March to lose out on the playoffs last year. They were in a playoff spot till pretty late.
Like the majority of the season last year. And if they weren't in, they were like just outside knocking on the door. They were right in there. So,
and as we know in the NHL, GMs, presidents, they all have their guys. A new GM comes in immediately, unless he's given a incredible coach that he doesn't want to move. 9 times out of 10, they are going, I'm looking for a chance to fire this guy. A lot of them just do it first day they get in. They're just, get the hell out of here. And they bring in their guy, their coach, their guy that they trust to get the job done. And Tortorella has been there before the GM, and he might have been there before Danny Briere, who I believe is the president.
No, Brier's the GM.
He is the GM? Okay.
Yeah.
So Tortorella, while being kind of the face of this team, was never their guy. And, Tortorella bringing in Bradshaw, which I'm going to keep saying as if it's a first
Just
name.
one name.
It's John Bradshaw Layfield. He's probably on the way out in the summer unless he really proves something down the stretch here, which the door is open for him to do. We just saw the Flyers just won 6-4 against the Canadiens last night. Their final games of the year against the Sabres, the Predators, Canadiens again, Rangers, not a playoff team yet, the Islanders, the Senators. The Sens are the first playoff team here, and they're wild card too. The Blue Jackets and the Sabres. There's one playoff team left. There's one playoff team left.
It's the spoilers of the East. You go through, you knock off Montreal again. You knock off the Islanders, the Rangers, the Blue Jackets. Like, you could be sitting there at the end of the season being like, look at all these teams in our division, and they're not in the playoffs because we beat them.
Yeah.
Because we were the underdog and we went out there and beat them. Yeah. And I think they have the chance to just do the funniest thing and just go out there and just tell all these teams, you're not getting by us tonight. And because of that, you're not getting in the playoffs. You're going to miss by 1 or 2 points. And you're going to be like, man, all we had to do was beat Philly. You couldn't do it. And I think that's kind of the mindset that this team has is we know we're not making it and we're going to make sure you're right there with us watching on the couch.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's going to be something and that's going to completely change that locker room.
Because you already know you're not whether the coach stays, it'll be huge.
Why not be the big spoilers? It just gets a big old fuck you to all your divisional rivals.
Didn't they get that last year? Didn't the Flyers weren't they in some weird situation? Like, didn't they screw over the Red Wings or something? Where they
I can't remember. That was a mess. No,
they pulled their goalie at a weird time or something to try, and they were like doing everything they could to try and get a point or something.
Yeah, because they needed at least 1 point. And yeah, they pulled their goalie, and then with I think it was 4 minutes left or something. And then Washington scored to get in.
With 4 minutes left. Surely they were down 2 goals, right?
Wasn't it the game was tied? And Philly needed a regulation win.
That was it. You're right.
And then
the game
Washington
was tied,
scored, and
they pulled the goalie because they needed a regulation, or they needed
they needed the 2 points, and they needed Washington to get none.
Yeah, they needed specifically Washington to get none,
and they tied it up with a second left, and then by the time it got to overtime, it was Washington won, you're done. Because if Philly won, all Detroit had to do was win. But because Washington won, that knocked out Detroit. That's what it was. Yeah. So they did play a little bit spoiler for Detroit last year. And they got the chance to do it again to some other teams, multiple teams.
Yeah. Dude.
And divisional teams.
I love the absolute balls it takes to pull the goalie at a tie game. Even
you had to.
You have to for that situation. I get why, but I feel like most coaches, probably at least 25 in the league, would probably be call a timeout, guys. You got to go out there and play your hardest, and that's how it goes. I feel like not a lot of coaches are pulling the goalie to go for it.
See, and I think a lot love that play because it's your season's on the line. You get to overtime. Every player on your bench, everybody's gonna be I don't fucking care now. We're done. Might as well just pull your goalie in overtime. Be let's just get this shit over with and get. I just feel like
there's a lot of coaches that would just be a little too afraid to be the guy who's seen as look at the idiot who got scored on because he pulled his goalie with 3 minutes left. But that's what he has to do. You have to make that play.
You have to.
And you're more likely to score then than you are to do it 5-on-5.
I'm curious with Tortorella to see what is next for now, because he kind of made it clear going into this job with the Flyers, it was this is it for him. This is the last
He's 66 years
Last
old.
last stop on the train. This is his last gig, and once he's done, he's done. That's it for him. So, is there something in hockey operations? Does he go, broadcasting, be on the panel, which I think would be awesome. I think having
Hell
like
yeah.
him and uh, you know, Biz Nasty together on a panel, I think would be like fire and water. Just throwing those two together. Um, I don't know. It's impossible to say with a guy like John
Mm,
Tortorella. He could very well just be like, "No, I'm just going to a beach. I'm just gonna relax, and I'm doing my own thing now." Um,
yep.
and it's one of those things. Again, it's good for both sides. Like Tortorella didn't want to be there. Gives Philly a little bit of a tryout with potentially a new coach. Maybe improve the vibes in the locker room this late in the season and try to end the season at least on a high note despite missing the playoffs.
Which,
Who
you
knows at
know,
this point?
one game in since the firing, I mean, that's the best game Sean Couturier's looked all season. One of the best for Michkov. Like, you know,
Yeah.
maybe he installed some good habits in them, got some effort out of them, and maybe now the next guy can bring in the vibes and the system, and maybe Torts effect will still be felt in a positive way going forward. Um, I just googled John Tortorella. With everything going on, what do you think is the first thing that comes up for him?
Um,
Under the top stories tab, not this is
no
right below his
idea.
Wikipedia.
No idea,
Um,
actually.
so the second through 10 next things are all uh events led to his firing. What does it mean for him? What are the Flyers going to do next without Tortorella? The first thing, because of course it is, the New York Rangers should all caps or the New York Rangers all caps need to bring John Tortorella back all caps now.
Well, I did say that to someone last night. I said I don't expect. I think he's done. I think he's made up his mind. He's like
Yeah, I think
I'm
so.
good. Um, but I did say if he does go back into coaching, I think the Rangers is the perfect place for him to go. Specifically because with Tortorella, we know he's more keen on coaching veteran players, not necessarily the younger guys. And the New York Rangers have a lot of veterans that I think need to be held more accountable, which is exactly what we're seeing this year. It's the wheels fell off the wagon for him. That it hasn't been working, and I think
I,
Tortorella would be the perfect guy to whip that team into shape when.
you're not necessarily wrong, especially on the team as a whole. I just think it would be so funny for JT Miller to get out of the situation with the media and everything in Vancouver and immediately have John Tortorella become his coach.
I think
And
the
I think
fans
he
would
I
love
think
that.
I think he's the kind of guy that it would work for him on the ice, but I also feel like he's a guy who might get rather annoyed with him at times. They're two
I
big
could see that, but at
personalities.
the same time, they've kind of got that same personality of like whatever it takes to win.
Yeah.
It's
I
winning
mean,
games above all else. So
100%. Like
yeah,
it
like
could be
it
it could be
will
like
seem like
Tortorella and LeCavalier. Like they hated each other. Tortorella stripped him of the C, and then they went and won a cup. Like,
yeah.
you know, you don't always have to get along, but like, if you win, neither of you care that much.
Yeah, if you're winning games together, you know what? Any personal differences that stuff doesn't even matter as long as you're winning. But if you're losing, then yeah, then it starts to clash.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like I said, I think Tortorella's done. I think he's
I'm
made
pretty
up
sure
his
he's from Philly as well. Says here he's born in Boston. From everything I've heard, he's got a lot of roots in Philly. Um, they were clearly a rebuilding team. I think he was brought in to, you know, help do that rebuild, and I think he knew that and kind of was like, "This will be my last go. I'm not going to stress over it. I'm just going to go into rebuild mode, and we're just going to help this team." And I think he's John Tortorella. He can't stop himself from being competitive. And I think at a certain point he was like, "You know what? I need to, I need to chill. I'm 66 years old. I can leave it here. I
Yeah.
think he's probably done. And what a coaching career he's had.
Yeah.
No,
Like,
nobody's given us more sound bites in the media.
yeah. Yeah. Legendary coach. I hope he goes into something with broadcasting. I would love to
Is he
to
a
just
Hall of Fame
to
coach?
get that. I think so.
I think he kind of has to be. Like, even
Yeah.
I don't, it you don't keep up on coaching stats near as much as players, right? But like, even if he doesn't have the number stats for it, and he does have a cup, but it at the end of the day, I know a lot of people don't like the argument, but it is a Hall of Fame. He's pretty damn infamous as far as coaches go for the sport. Like, you know,
Yeah.
it if it's for really bad stuff, like, yeah, I don't even want to come up with a comparable. If something bad happens and you're in the media for it, that shouldn't help. But, you know, he was in the media. It's not even really for bad or good reasons. It was just clippable moments, right? Sometimes he would
Mhm.
be in the wrong, sometimes he'd be in the right, but he's usually yelling. It was a lot of fun, and he kind of defined the mid 2000s for a lot of people with some of those comments he made on people. So
Yeah. And I mean, two
between that
Jack Adams.
and
He's got a Stanley Cup.
damn, he's got two Jack Adams. I mean,
The numerous,
he's
like
probably
the
gets in on
crazy amount of
numbers.
wins he's got. Like, yeah. And I mean, take it for what it's worth. I mean, he was the coach that was there when Columbus won their first playoff series. He was the coach that got that team over the hump. If you want to even include that, I think that is
Absolutely.
something worth noting as well. So, yeah, for me,
One of the
I think
most
he's
underdogs in a series ever. And you got a sweep. Like,
yeah.
absolutely.
But we can move on from Torts, and maybe we'll talk about him again one day if we know what he's up to or what he goes on to next. Um,
Kind of
Sidney
jumped
Crosby.
all over. Let's talk. Yeah, let's go from Philly to Pittsburgh. Sid the Kid, he's done it. He is at 20 point per game seasons, surpassing Gretzky's record for most in league history. Gretzky, you're losing a lot of your records here.
Starting to crumble a little bit.
Oh, the cracks are showing. By
That's
by 2030, he'll be out of records.
and the thing is, like, first of all, like, congrats to Crosby for that, but it's also like he's been putting up point per game seasons, like more
Entire
like for a
career.
longer time than Connor Bedard has been alive. Like,
Jesus.
that's that's just crazy to think. Like, the next up and coming superstars in the league are entering. It's like, yeah, Crosby's been putting up point per game seasons before you guys were even born, before even a dirty thought. Like, it's
Yeah.
it's incredible, really. Like 20 point per game seasons is just absurd. It's truly impressive, especially again, like we've talked about how bad this Penguins team has been. And well, I guess Crosby's now after since last episode, he's leading the league in 5v5 points.
Yeah.
Like, it's incredible, really, what he's still able to do.
I'm just trying to make sure. And yes. Okay. So it's you could call it semantics, but Crosby did take two records from Wayne Gretzky when he got that. It was a goal, and it was a nice goal. In fact, how do you leave Crosby that open in front? But so he broke the record for 20 for the most point per game seasons in NHL history at 20. Um, of course, he did also break the most consecutive point per game seasons in NHL history because Gretzky did the exact same thing, except he only played 19 seasons. So
Eh,
his 19 were all consecutive. Uh, Crosby's 20 were consecutive and still ongoing. I could see
yeah,
him doing it again next year. He doesn't
easily.
have to stop at 20.
Yeah, he could go 21. He could go 22. Like,
I
it's
ain't
it's
betting
very
against
it's
him.
very possible. It's very very possible for him to do that.
especially if he gets to play with Rutger McGrody. Oh,
Oof. Wagon that team's going to be. Not really. They're very bad. But speaking of Crosby, we've talked about Crosby a lot. Let's talk about his buddy, his rival for the last however many years. Alex Ovechkin is now 6 goals back of the all-time goals record behind Wayne Gretzky. 10 games remaining. The gap is starting to it's coming down to the wire now.
I will also say, I think his most impressive goal of the year. Because, with this chase, every goal he scores, the highlights everywhere. No matter how he scores it, it's always everywhere. Quite a few empty netters this year. Not a ton on his career, and that's what the record is. Quite a few power play goals as well. This one, even strength against the team with the odds-on Vezina winner. The only team rivaling you for the President's Trophy in a 3-2 game in the final few minutes. He found the open ice. It was a nice shot that beat Hellebuck. Like, everything about that is such a goal scorer's goal. It wasn't the cookie cutter, just one timer. It wasn't an empty netter. It wasn't any of these other goofy things that's been going on. He kind of a bit of a garbage goal against Philly a couple nights ago. That one was he had ice in his veins on that one.
Yeah. And
I just wanted to shout out that goal because it was a really nice one.
Did you see what Ovi did last night?
I did.
I thought that was very cool. For those who don't know, the Washington Capitals played the Minnesota Wild, and at the end of the game, Washington players were already, they lost. They were going down the tunnel, like, game over. And Ovi rallied the troops. He went down the tunnel and grabbed all the boys and said, like, "Hey, let's go out here. Let's meet Fleury at center ice, Marc-Andre Fleury, and shake hands, congratulate him, because we know that this is Fleury's last year." And it's so weird now. I feel old because, like, seeing a lot of the younger people online being like, "Oh, that's and a weird thing for Ovi to do, but also kind of cool." But it's like him and Fleury were like rivals for how many years? The Pittsburgh Washington.
They defined the division,
like
the conference, really.
People always say, "Oh, the Ovi and Sid rivalry," but it's like Malkin was right there behind Crosby. Letang was right there. Fleury was between the pipes, stopping Ovi. Like, they had a long rivalry, and people kind of seem to maybe forget that. But again, I guess we've reached that old standard at this point. But I thought it was really cool for Ovi to get all the boys back and be like, I know we're pissed we lost, but let's congratulate this guy on an incredible career. And give him a big send off, as we'll never
everyone go
see him out there on
handshake
the ice again, type of thing, right? So,
and
I thought that was
I
really
actually
cool.
I never saw anybody saying, like, why is Ovi doing that? It's weird. All I saw was people being like, why are these players leaving before shaking his hand and stuff? And I get the sentiment behind that, but I genuinely do think that not only do they lose and they're just kind of leaving, how many times have you done it? It's just kind of, you lose and you leave.
It's instinct, like that.
But I think a big
Your
thing,
whole career.
yeah, and I think the big thing for it is Fleury didn't play that game. Philip Gustafsson was in net, and if Fleury's not playing, it's probably rather easy to forget that it's not even his last game against you because he didn't play, but it's his last time in that arena. Because actually, I think it was in Minnesota. But it will be the last time that he's in the arena dressed against your team. So, like, I could definitely see how that could slip your mind. When Gustafsson's the one who played, but
these guys.
I get the sentiment from both sides.
You lose and it's you go down the tunnel.
Especially in their barn, like, you ain't sticking around for their fans to jeer at you. Like, if it's at home, you might.
The OV goal watch is going to come right down to the wire.
Okay,
it might be game 82 of the regular season. It's like he's just got to get one, or he's got to get two.
Okay, I need to pull up the. Oh, I'm still on the Flyers. I need to pull up the Washington Capitals schedule. I have something that I just want to get your take on because insanely polarizing thoughts on this. I don't know how to feel about it, but the way a lot of people are losing their mind on both sides. So this is not an original thought. A lot of people have been talking about when is Ovi going to break it. The
Where
other
is
the other day, I was listening to the Steve Dangle podcast, and they were
I had a good
talking.
time last night at the watching Toronto lose. I bet they had fun.
Oh, they probably did. They were they were in San Jose,
Yeah,
and
they were at the game.
they were all. I don't know about during the game, but I know beforehand they were all wearing Sharks jerseys.
Nice.
But one Jesse Blake on their podcast brought up the idea that at all costs, Ovechkin has to score the goal to beat the record at home. And he said, if it came
It'd be
down to
cool.
it, he said at all costs, and if necessary, in a way, once he's within 2 goals of the record, he starts benching Ovechkin for away
Oh
games.
no. That's so dumb. Like if he breaks it at home, yeah, it'd be cool, it'd be sweet, but to be actively benching him, like no. You don't do that. Especially when, you're chasing the presidents. You're having this incredible run this team's having, like
See, but there are also a couple other arguments of dude's 39 years old. Give him a little extra rest for the right end of the regular season ain't half bad. They're not even fighting for seeding. They're so locked up. Like it's not even a playoff
but
race.
but
It's not even
you're
a
also
seeding
then
race.
saying but then I feel like you're also saying that precedent then of, again, a team that we've talked about, that it's done by committee. You're now basically saying one player, one objective is bigger than the entire team. Because then what do you do when you play at home? Is it, you know, Ovi, you're being double shifted. If you're out there with Ovi, you're not allowed to shoot. You have to pass to him because we've now stripped him of multiple games where he could score, right? And then
No, I think you can just play him like normal in those home
I
games.
don't like that. But
I
but why?
figured you
Because
wouldn't. Most people didn't. I
I
wanted
also
to
think it'd be
let you
kind of
know about
shitty if,
that.
like, you bench him and then he's ends up being like he misses it out by like one goal, and then we know Washington will have home ice advantage. Game 1 of the playoffs, he goes out there and scores, and it's like technically didn't break the record though. Like he got that goal, but
Well,
it technically doesn't.
yeah. No,
I,
no. The playoffs don't count it. If we're counting,
yeah, I get the idea of it, and again, like if I had to pick, does he break it at home or on the road? It would be much better to have him break at home. I think that would be
it'd be
incredible
so
for
late. Like
the fans and them getting to witness it live, no doubt. What's their schedule like?
yeah. So I've
Like
got the
last
schedule,
last
but
game of the
it doesn't
regular
say
season
what's
in
home and away.
Pittsburgh. Like game 82 of the regular season in Pittsburgh.
See,
I
he
mean,
did
like,
specifically
fuck, that
say
is
he did specifically say if it's the Pittsburgh game, he plays him. But
because then
the game versus the Hurricanes on April 10th, that's in Carolina.
well, so
It would
they
be
have 10
pretty.
games left.
It would be
1,
pretty
2,
lame if he
3,
got
4,
the record in
5.
Carolina.
But you're also saying if you're sitting him for away games, 5 of your remaining 10 games, he's
He
sitting.
when he's within 2 goals of the record, when a hat trick would beat Gretzky's record. So
Yeah.
I definitely
I get the idea
I
behind it.
think the
but, like,
vast majority of people would be against the idea, and I 100%
yeah.
get why. But I do think it's a fun
I understand
a
it,
fun
like, no
idea.
doubt. But I don't know. I just think it's little bit weird.
Because I do think, if I'm perfectly honest, I don't disagree that I would rather him break the record at home game 1 next year than this year in Carolina or in the Islanders arena, you know?
I mean,
Because
maybe,
we
but at
know
the same
we know
time, it
he's
would
coming
be
back next year. We don't know
yeah, but at the
beyond
same
that, but we know
time,
next year.
like, I would also much rather like, if Washington goes on to win the cup this year, I'd rather have it be just all in one big bundle. It's like to cap off the regular season. Oh, if he breaks the record, then they go on to win a cup.
Well, fuck. If that all
Like, that would be
happens,
pretty,
then I don't know if he comes back next year.
like,
What
then,
what more do you do?
he'll for sure come back next year. He'll play out the final year of his contract
I
at least.
I imagine so. It's just goddamn you couldn't
Again,
there's
like,
not a better way to wrap a bow on it, really.
yeah, like, if I got to pick, yeah, 100% do it home. If he does it in Pittsburgh, cool. I think for
Home or
the team, it's
Pittsburgh
kinda
would be
just
the
like,
dream.
if they wanna get it for him, he wanted to get it this season. Again, I get the sentiment behind it, I get the idea, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. No, the Hurricanes game is at home, but they have away games
They have an away
against
one.
the Islanders, the Blue Jackets, and then the Islanders again. Like if it happens, I'm just imagining like it would be so deflating for it to happen. First of all, at a 10:30 a.m. game, in Columbus, so it's not even in front of your home fans. But they're not a team like Pittsburgh where they have this really close connection. And also, the crowd might be annoyed because they're trying to get into that playoff spot and you're depriving them of it. Like, I feel like there's a lot of things there where it could be like a lot less of a celebration. This would be one of the biggest and most marketable moments in our sports history for a long
Yeah.
time. And I just understood his sentiment of wanting it to be,
Yeah, like,
that
I totally get it.
Capital One Arena would lose their fucking mind, man.
Again, I just think it's something if Washington was out of the playoffs or something, but I think especially just the vibes that they've set there, the we get it done as a thing, as a team, like we're all one type of thing. It's just weird. But again, like if it was something like they were already, missing the playoffs or something, like they were out, then who cares at that point?
I almost think the opposite. Like, I feel like it's better because they're already locked up. They're not fighting for seeding or to get into the playoffs. Like,
Yeah, but they want that presence though, to go from the team that like nobody thought was going to make the
that's
playoffs to
fair.
be like we're number one. And again, people say like, oh, President's Trophy curse. Players don't care about that. They don't believe in that. They're thinking of it as, if we go to the Stanley Cup final, doesn't matter who we're playing, we're in our barn. Game 1, game 2,
Yeah.
our barn. It goes to game 7, our barn. That's the way
Yeah.
the players view it. They don't believe that present superstition. They're looking at it as, whoever we face, we got home ice advantage. They got to come to our barn first.
Yeah. And you know what? And anybody listening, you shouldn't believe in the President's Trophy curse either.
It's not real.
It's
not real.
It's real. It's a blessing. You win the President's Trophy, and then you win the Cup next year.
Oh, actually, that's true. And then that would be Ovi's final year. He'd win the Cup. So there we go.
There you have it.
There we go. Now you really got to put the pedal down.
Yeah, like the Panthers won it in 22, and then next year they won the Cup. The Avs won it in 21. Next year they won the Cup. It was that year. Tampa won the President's Trophy in 19, and then they went back to back. The Capitals won it in 17, and then they won it in, was it 18 or 19? I think they won it in 18.
18, yeah.
The Blackhawks won it in 13. Like, it goes back decently far where every second or third President's Trophy winner wins a cup right after. The Red Wings in 06 and 08.
Bruins fans are fuming. Well, maybe not Boston. They at least have a cup in 2011, but the Rangers.
Yeah, they won theirs after.
Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh. That's rough. That's rough for them.
Let's do a quick standings check-in just to see where things are at, how much they've shifted. We don't really have to dive in too much, but in the Atlantic, Toronto is now top of the division with 90 points. Florida and Tampa right behind at 89. In the Metro, the Capitals are at 103. Carolina at 90. New Jersey at 83. In the wild card, Ottawa is at 81. Montreal at 75. And then is a cluster brewing right behind them. Montreal at 75. Islanders and Rangers both at 74. Columbus at 73. Detroit at 72. That is there's a lot like Detroit, Columbus, Rangers, Islanders. They're all right in it. Yeah, like it's gonna come down to the wire between all of these teams. Like it really is. I think Ottawa's pretty safe now. Ottawa's in that area where like I'm like
Yeah.
I think
Ha-
they're safe
have you
unless they
seen the
drastically fall off.
Yeah. Have you seen the picture going around of uh Money Puck's little the little graph they do where it shows the teams based on their winning percentage and everything throughout the season?
No,
So
no.
it
I know,
often gets
like I've seen ones before, but I
you've
haven't
seen
seen
it
it in
around.
a
Okay, okay.
while.
So one has been going around starting around this morning of the teams in the that are around the wild card race in the East. And it's so
Mhm.
funny because you can tell the exact moment where Ottawa says, "We want the fucking playoffs," and they go skyrocketing. They just go straight up. They must have won at least 6 in a row. They're 7-3 in their last 10. Like they're crushing it, and every other team around them just plummeting. It's like nobody wants that second wild card spot. Like they're all these teams that are fighting for it. The Sens are 7-3-0. Canadians 3-3-4. Islanders 4-3-3. Rangers 3-6-1. Blue Jackets 2-7-1. Red Wings 3-7-0. Bruins 2-7-1. Like the Pittsburgh Penguins in their last 10 have a better record than every team I just mentioned except for the Senators. And that's at 5-4
Yeah,
1, which isn't even good.
I
The
mean,
Sabres are 6-4-0, man. The Sabres are on a 3-game win streak.
yeah, and we're not even looking. Well, I mean, outside of the teams in the playoff races, those four at the bottom too. You know how close they all are, and how one could jump to the very bottom of it.
Yeah, like it's crazy. I was really hoping we wouldn't get this year because we did last year, where it's like it really feels like a lot of teams be like, "You take it, no, you take it," and obviously they actually want to get in. They just keep losing these games. But like, at least the Senators have really grabbed their opportunity and seized it. But whoever gets wild card 2 in the East, they're gonna have to do some proving in these last few games for it to look like they deserve it that much. And I hope one of them does. I hope
Yeah,
somebody grabs the opportunity and absolutely crushes it. I'm hoping it's Columbus. They're only 2 points away with a game in
yeah,
hand on
yeah.
most of them.
They're right in there. Like I'm looking at the playoff race. I'm also looking like Boston could jump down to bottom of the East and have great odds at first overall. Pittsburgh could, like Philly could drop, Buffalo could rise. Like they're all right in there with each other.
I'm going to be so freaking mad if Boston ends up with like the first overall pick this year somehow. That would be so dumb, man. Do they have their
It would be
first? They
fitting. It
do.
would be fitting.
God. Dude, they better not. God damn. That would that would be something to behold. They would be the next Pittsburgh Penguins where they just whenever they need it. There it is.
Yeah. Moving over to the West, do you want to give us the rundown of the Western Conference standings, where we're at there?
Yeah, so we got the already clinched in the playoffs Winnipeg Jets up at the top of the Central with 102 points, Dallas in second with 98, and Avs in third with 93. In the Pacific, we have the Vegas Golden Knights with 94, the Kings with 89, who are 8-2-0 in their last 10. So the Kings are really going on a heater to try and get home ice advantage over the Oilers. The Oilers, who are third in the Pacific with 87, so only 2 points back of the Kings, but the Kings have a game in hand on them. And then we have the wild card, 87 points for Minnesota in first, and the St. Louis Blues, the hottest team in the league currently, 85 points in wild card 2. They are 8-1-1 in their last 10, currently on an 8-game win streak.
Yeah, like they're up to 8 now. That's pretty
I
that's
I
pretty
think
nuts. They've decided they're making the playoffs, and whatever these other teams around them do doesn't matter.
rather
As long
similar
as
to
they keep
2019.
winning, doesn't doesn't matter. Like you look at the gap, and again, like Vancouver and Calgary, um, have games in hand. Like Vancouver's got 2, Calgary's got 3. So, um, Can definitely can still be in there, but it's like you kind of have to chase Minnesota, not
I was
St.
gonna
Louis
say at this point, I think the Blues, like, they're not just happening into these wins; they're doing so well right now. Dylan Holloway, especially, is crushing it right now on that top line with Kyrou. I think that, yeah, I think the Blues are going to end up leapfrogging the Wild, and I don't think the Wild are going to fall out of a playoff spot. Gustafson's heating up again, and that's been really helping them. But, you know, if the Canucks or the Flames go on a bit of a heater, they might just get them at game 80, 81, 82, which
I
would
mean,
be wild to see.
it's definitely possible. Like, Utah, I think is out of it, and the rest of the West is out. There's,
Yeah,
I
especially
mean,
after
Calgary,
8-0 loss
like
there. Like,
the door's still open for
yikes.
Calgary and Vancouver. Don't get me wrong, but it's definitely quite a bit of an uphill battle for them, especially with just the way St. Louis has been playing, and Minnesota still being a good team. Like that's a good team you got to try and catch now. With
Yeah.
again, not a lot of games
5-4-1 in their
remaining.
last 10. Like,
Yeah.
Minnesota's been good, but they're not, you can do better than 5-4-1 for sure. Like, I could see Vancouver or the Flames doing that. So, it's not easy, but the door is open for them. Yeah, Utah's chances kind of sank last night with 8-0 loss, and today they're on a back-to-back, and it's not going to get any easier than that game as well, because Brad Marchand is going to debut tonight with the Panthers against Utah. They are getting this is a really rough time of year to have this back-to-back. That's
It
pretty
really
brutal.
is. It's tough, but again, for them, like they're already out of it, so just go out there and I don't know, try your best, hang on for dear life, and just enjoy the ride. At this point, not
Yeah.
much more you can do, right? Like that's
One thing I am noticing here, and I do not believe we've had it in the past couple of years. In the East, all three teams in the Atlantic top three spots are positive goal differential. The top three for the Metro, all positive. The Senators are a +2. Every team below them is a minus. So in the East, goal differential is like, it's actually pretty good determinator on what the standings are. It's obviously a little bit different. The Rangers are outside of the playoffs in a -2, and the Canadians have wildcard 2 at -25. But the Green's on top, the Red's on bottom. And in the West, basically the same thing. The only exception being the Blues are a +16 and the Wild are above them, still in the playoffs at a -6. So,
yeah,
we're not getting anything like last year where the Capitals made it into the playoffs with a -37.
yeah, which is pretty absurd.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I mean, the Canadians are in there with a -25. So,
Yeah.
so, maybe it is a little bit there, but there's not a ton of teams that are doing that much better that could beat them.
Yeah. But again, a lot of big games over the weekend, especially for all these teams right in the mix with each other. Like Montreal's got a big game against Carolina, Vancouver and Columbus, two teams fighting. They're going up against each other. The Rangers got a couple.
The Flyers against everybody for the rest of the year. Like we said, they're against all these teams. They got games against the Islanders, Rangers, Blue Jackets, Red Wings, Sens. Like, they're facing them all.
This is the biggest weekend of the season for the Rangers. You got Anaheim and then San Jose on back-to-backs. You got to win both of those if you want a chance at it, and especially if you lose both.
3 points minimum.
You're done. Like you need to get points this weekend, either 3 or 4. It's going to come down to the wire for a lot of these teams, and I'm sure there will be a lot of movement when we come back to this next week.
The top 2 teams that are trying to get that wildcard 2 spot, that being the Canadians who have it and the Islanders who are just outside, are on a 4-game losing streak and 3-game losing streak. Like, come on, man. Somebody's got to want it, right? Like, come on, grab the brass ring, make yourself a star.
I will say, though, we kind of briefly mentioned it, but you got to see it kind of more clearly after. The episode order this week, like Islanders should have won against Columbus.
Oh yeah,
That
I'm
was
glad
a
you. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That
was
was
a
bad.
very bad goal interference call. And more than anything, like the Islanders did get a point, but the biggest thing is they could have had a regulation win. They could have had 2 points, and they could have taken away 2 from Columbus, who's like
I was just
right behind them, like nipping on their heels.
1 point behind him. Direct competition for that spot. Like
Yeah, that was a big game, and
yeah,
it's just such a bad call.
I don't think it is exaggerating to say that whoever was it the refs in the arena or was it sent off to Toronto? It was sent to Toronto, right?
The refs called it no goal on the ice. It went in, and then immediately ref was like no goal, and then
Toronto
didn't want to overturn it. Yeah, and so then Patrick after the game said, "Well, what's the point of having Toronto if they're too scared to overturn a call?"
I agree.
This was a clear example that this one should have been overturned. Like it should have been a good goal.
Whoever is in charge of that in Toronto needs to legitimately, I'm not exaggerating, be investigated for sports betting fraud. Like that was a blatant goal. Everyone freaking knows it. I think I think it's at least pause for thought that this guy might have put some money on a game, and you know what? Is it likely that he did? Not really, but like, fuck, are you that just blatantly bad at your job then?
Yeah, and
either you did it on purpose or you're dumb as fuck.
Yeah, like it's one of the two, and it's people. Obviously, I think if people got their pick, they would want Columbus and over the Islanders. So I think that's kind of why they're on the side of like, well, it is goal interference. Like Palmieri's ass was in the crease. Doesn't matter. His skates weren't. The definition is if your skates are in the crease. Palmieri's weren't. And the biggest thing is Merzlikins came out to make contact with Palmieri. He tried to push him out and clear the front of the net because
it's not like he clipped him with his ass. Like he pushed him, and then he still mostly had time to reset, and then it went in. Like it was just a good ass screen, man.
And more than anything, Palmieri deflected.
And I want Columbus to win. I want them to get that spot, but not like that.
And the biggest thing is Merzlikins, and again, I don't know, for sure because anything could happen. He probably still gets back in a position to make the save, but it's the fact that Palmieri went out front and he deflected it.
Yeah.
So not only are you now trying to readjust because you went out of your way to interfere with the player, but now that player deflects the shot. So now now there's 2 different things going on at once instead of just one.
Yeah.
So I really, again, for me, it's kind of like it didn't matter who wins. I think I see value to both teams in the playoffs. I see value for both teams to miss and maybe get a better draft pick. Like it didn't matter, but it's just especially when it's a game of this magnitude.
At this point in the season,
just
game was
outside
that
the
close.
Playoffs, like
end of the game,
Islanders go up 4-3 with 10 seconds left, and it's like nope, goal interference, and then you review it and you uphold it. If you call it off on the ice because you're unsure, and then you review it and you're like, okay, nope, there wasn't goal interference, good goal, fine, totally understandable. Like that's a good way of doing it. But to say no goal and then be like, no, we stand by it. It's like, it's.
I genuinely wonder. Obviously, it's already a huge industry. I genuinely wonder for all of the major sports in North America, how much bigger sports betting would be if all these leagues had very good, very consistent reffing and judgment calls. Yeah. Like it's. Sports betting is doing just fine. Those companies are doing way more than fine. But like, if you like knew that your team wasn't going to get screwed with a call, like you go into every game being like, fuck, I hope the refs just don't have it out for us tonight.
Yeah,
just cause, like,
it's because I feel like it.
Yeah, people would be willing to put a lot more money on. I bet, like. Fuck, Calgary probably loses out on so much because for the last 10 freaking years, they've been hammered by the refs because freaking Weidman made a boneheaded decision and
Yeah.
then like left the team in the offseason. And like they're just still paying for it. Like it's
To this
insane to
day.
look at.
Yeah, but
They
one, put that out there. If you feel like it's a good goal, get your eyes checked. There's actually this is probably my favorite thing about the whole NHL season. I don't know the exact company. I'll find it and then I'll shout them out the next episode because they deserve praise. It's
oh hell yeah.
it's a glasses company. So like, seeing eyeglasses. And their whole advertisement is anytime there's a bad call made by refs I'm assuming probably any league, but I've seen it all across all NHL posts. Anytime the ref makes a bad call, their whole marketing thing is they'll just go and comment and be like, hey refs, come see us and we'll give you a free eye checkup and
That's pretty
we'll
good.
set you up with the glasses you need. And they've instantly like just blown up. And it's like that's the best marketing
That's
um
funny.
campaign I've ever seen, honestly. Like it's so funny. It's so it's just perfectly. It's so well done. So I do want to give them props for that. And maybe go see them if you think that's a good call by the refs. That's goalie interference. Get yourself a pair of glasses.
Maybe get your eyes checked out a little bit.
Yeah. Then you can join us and be on the right side of this debate.
Yeah. Interesting that you mentioned it. I kind of forgot that. Yeah, it's just the skate being in the crease. I feel like maybe they should change that if they get a good overhead camera view on all the nets, because like it hasn't really been an issue, but I could see it becoming an issue where like guys are bending over and sticking their
Nah,
butt
you
way into
shouldn't
the
get penalized
crease.
if you got a big juicy ass. No.
Oh, you can have big juicy ass, just keep it out of the crease.
Keep it to yourself.
Yeah, don't want
sharing it.
Rempe hitting me with the rear view while I'm trying to make a save.
Yeah, true. Maybe. Yeah, I think that's a big thing. They need to figure out what's goalie interference, what's not, because the calls are so different.
Hellebuck was campaigning
Even
for it pretty hard earlier this year.
well, even Calgary last night, they had 2 goals called back, but one of them was because of goalie interference, and Blake Coleman's goal where Farabee was kind of in front of the net and apparently bumped into the goalie. I don't know, but then. And I don't know if this is true. This is just comments after the game. But Farabee said he was told by the ref because Coleman shot blocker side or glove side. One of the two. Whatever
Yeah.
side he shot. The ref basically told Farabee, hey, if he scored in the other corner, so if Coleman's, I don't know, we'll say he scored glove side. The ref
Sure.
basically told Farabee, if Coleman's shot and scored blocker side, it would have been a good goal. And it's like, well,
That's a problem, man.
so now
Are you
is it
kidding
like
me?
how are you classifying goalie interference based on where the puck was shot at? Like,
That is
yeah,
ludicrous.
once and
I
again, I
hope
don't
that's
know if
not true.
yeah, like we don't know for sure because we're never gonna find out on the ice. Like that's just what Farabee said, and the refs aren't gonna be public about that stuff.
I
They never
mean,
have been.
if
But
he
it's like
if
if
Farabee
that's
himself said it,
true,
I
feel like
doubt
it's
he'd just
not
be
true.
saying it's
I
probably
feel like
true.
there's
Like
truth to it, yeah.
I
And
feel
then
like
that's
he
the
wouldn't
problem.
come out and publicly say it to the
Mhm.
media if it was just a bold-faced lie. Like if it was, like, yeah, fuck, you think Calgary's getting bad calls now? Wait until he blatantly lies about what a ref said in an interview. Like
Yeah,
I think he's probably telling the truth, and that's insane. Or
that's bad.
maybe he
That's bad.
misconstrued what the ref meant, but like you can't we
I hope
can't
so.
dude, you can't start making those arguments because we're gonna have to get out a fucking protractor on every goal. You can't be like, oh, you bumped into the goalie's left arm, so you can still score on the right side of the net. No, you're messing up the goalie. Just
But you hit
dude.
the arm, so the puck's got to be on the ice. Can't be up high. It's like what?
Oh, of course. Like, yeah. Yeah.
It's
No,
so
if you hit
dumb.
it should be such a simple thing to call. Did you fuck with the goalie? Then no goal. Like
Yeah.
that's it. Oh, man.
It's a problem. I really do
God,
believe that
Batman,
it's
rewrite the
gonna get
fucking rule
addressed.
book.
I think with
God.
how much controversy there's been this season, like, and especially like if say the Islanders miss by 1 point, like There's
That
going to be outrage.
those
You
guys
know, if you
cost
miss
him the
the
season.
playoffs, I hope they miss by 3 at least, because you just never want it to come down to potentially something as small as a call like that being like that determined your whole season. And you can make the argument, oh, you had 81 other games. It doesn't matter.
There's been a
Does
lot
not
of
matter.
guys talking out in the past day as well. Um,
Yeah, rightfully
yep.
so.
I think Brendan Gallagher had some pretty good comments on it. Um, I think Stutzel was asked the other day about it, and his response was, "I don't want to get fined." Next question, which was pretty funny. Like,
Yeah.
fuck, the way Gallagher said it, I think he might catch a fine.
Yeah, players don't care about those meaningless fines. They're
Well,
standing on
no,
business.
because 5
Good on
mil is
them.
the 5 mil is the maximum allowed for an on ice thing. I think off ice stuff you can get hammered.
5,000, not 5 mil.
5,000. Yeah, yeah,
5,000.
yeah. They might care about that. No, I think for off ice stuff though, I think they can tag you with more. I'm not.
I think that that's only for coaches though.
I'd hope so.
I've only seen it with coaches, but again, it's usually only coaches that um
That say that stuff.
usually that do that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
Um,
Maybe if we
we're at
made
the
the
tail
refing
end of
more
the episode
consistent.
here. Oh,
Yeah.
I guess we
Did
should
we?
mention
I was gonna say, did we hit all our
breaking
points?
news this morning. David Yurchek suffered a lacerated spleen down in the AHL and is officially done for the season. Unfortunate for Minnesota, the injuries continue, and it means if they want to call up Yurchek at any point for the remainder of the regular season or the playoffs, unfortunately, they will not be able to do so. So that is very unfortunate, but
Yeah.
hopefully a speedy and good recovery for Yurchek, and he can be a finally full-time NHL defender next season. Hopefully.
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 Uh, I just because you've done a little bit of sports med type schooling. Uh, a lacerated spleen, is that hockey related? Did something else happen? Where is your spleen? Did a skate catch him, or is that something that just like happened internally or somehow?
And
I
see, and that's
genuinely
the
have no
thing I
idea.
don't know. Like your spleen is just a little bit below like your pecs, or for women your breasts. Like
Holy
it's
fuck,
just
it's that
below it.
high up? Wow.
Yeah, like it's just a little bit below. It's kind of with your ribs a little bit almost.
Okay, I would have
Um
thought it was below the stomach, honestly.
and yeah, like and all we know is like it was just put out today, but like I don't know. I don't know if this happened in a game, if it was just something that happened at home. Like I don't.
Like, how would you lacerate that without,
Yeah,
getting a gash on your side, your front, your back? Like, I don't know. I just read that the lacerated spleen. I was like, how would that? But you know, who knows? These guys put a lot of wear and tear on their bodies in all kinds of different
I
ways.
mean, I guess the most common way that it would is like it could happen as simple as getting hit. Like if you take a hard blow to the side,
I guess, yeah. Anything can.
it's possible. So I'm assuming that's probably what it was. Like it's just a big hard hit, and that's what caused it.
Yeah.
I think it would have to be a pretty
Suffered
hard
the
hit
injury
to
while
fall.
playing for Iowa Wild on Saturday. So it did happen
Right.
during a game. So
So it probably would have had to have gotten hit pretty hard for for something like that to happen.
yeah, I would imagine so. Yikes.
Um,
Well, you know what? At least those internal ones on those organs, I feel like those often can heal pretty well as long as it's not, hopefully it's not like catastrophic uh
yeah.
tear
And
or
this has happened to
laceration.
guys before, and they've come back fine. Obviously, it's not as something as simple as I guess in Ovi's case, you break your leg and you're back in whatever 15 games.
Yeah. Uh,
It's something that obviously shuts him down for the season, but fully expect he'll be back come
and it probably won't affect his
training camp,
ability.
and yeah, I think he'll be totally fine. Like it's still a serious injury, but it's one that's not gonna ruin his career or hinder his play long term, I don't think. I think he'll be just fine, hopefully, again, full-timer next season.
Yeah.
Um, but we are at the tail end of the episode. Braden, I'm gonna have to ask you, your standings that you've been looking at, you have to close those. Wipe them away. Clear your cookies
All
or eat
right.
'em, whatever you wanna do.
I'm definitely eating the cookies.
I don't blame you. What I will need you to do, though, is as long as you have something where you can write this stuff down, because there's a couple things and you'll need to probably have them in front of you so you can kind of mix and match.
All right. I
Because this
will
is a
open
new
some
game.
notes.
We've got lots of new fun games here. We're always bringing in new things. This one we're just gonna call matching. This is just the matching game. Um, I've got 2 different categories, 5 in each. I'm gonna give them all to you, and you're gonna have to figure out which ones go where. Who goes with who to the zoo.
Okay.
So let me know when you're ready, and I can give you both of the 5 different categories.
Yeah, I
And
am.
if you're at home, if you want, you can also play along. It's very easy for you to do so. Um, so the 2 categories I have for you today is I have 5 teams, and then I have 5 team stats based on standings wise, essentially, or on ice play.
Okay.
So the teams here, I have the Dallas Stars, the
The
Washington
Stars,
Capitals,
the Caps,
the LA Kings, the
the
Florida
Kings,
Panthers,
Panthers,
and the Nashville Predators.
and the Preds. I already know where they all go.
And the team statistics I have for you is 27 home wins,
27
9
home wins.
road wins,
Oof.
a plus 36 goal differential,
Plus 36 goal differential.
3 home regulation losses. It's not lost, regulation losses at home. And then a plus 73 goal differential.
Gee, that's a lot of goals. Good God. All right.
Now it's your goal to figure out which stats go with which of these teams.
All right. So we got the Stars, the Caps, the Kings, the Panthers, the Preds. 27 home wins, 9 road wins, plus 36 goal differential, plus 73 goal differential, and 3 home regulation losses.
Correct.
The Stars, Caps, Kings, Panthers, Preds. I gotta go with the Caps being plus 73. That feels like they gotta be up there. I don't think there's many teams up in the 70s, and we don't have the Jets on here, so I'm thinking it's the Caps for that. The Preds will probably be the next easiest to pick out because the rest of these teams are good. 9 road wins. I don't know if many of these teams would be in the playoffs if they only had 9 road wins. And I do believe the Kings are aggressively uh, a hometown performer. They're not road warriors by any means. So I'm thinking 9 road wins. I'm gonna go the Kings.
9 road wins, you're going Kings?
Yes.
Okay.
Plus 36. That feels pretty close to what I imagine the Panthers would be at. 27 home wins. Is that a lot? How many games are we at?
Yep, 41 home games throughout the entire regular season.
And we're not
So most
even
people
done yet. So that's quite a
probably
few.
played about 36-ish. Give or take a few here and there for some teams.
3 home regulation losses. That's crazy. That's pretty wild. God, that might be the Caps as well, but I don't think anyone else could have the goal differential. I think I need to put the Panthers at plus 36 because I can't really make heads or tails on them being one of the other ones. The Predators. What are the Predators? Well, they don't have the home wins, and they don't have only 3 home regulation losses. I think I put the Kings in the wrong spot. The Preds have to be the one with only 9 road wins, right? Surely, maybe. So it's down to the Stars and the Kings for 27 home wins and only 3 home regulation losses, which both of them are just being generally great at home. So I feel confident that these two teams are these two answers. I don't know which one. The Kings are very good defensively, and I think that's going to mean they don't lose in regulation often. So I'm going to go with the Kings on the regulation losses, and I'm going to go the Stars for 27 home wins. All right. I have my matching, and hopefully I have done it correctly.
All right, let's hear them. Final answers.
All right. For the Dallas Stars, I have their stat as 27 home wins.
Okay.
I have the Predators with 9 road wins. The Panthers with a plus 36 goal differential. The Kings with only 3 home regulation losses. And the Capitals at plus 73 goal differential.
Locking it in?
Locking it in. I feel pretty confident about most of them. I feel very confident about the Capitals. I don't see any other team being that high up in that category.
The Capitals have a plus 73 goal differential. You got that one right. Nashville
right.
Predators, 9 road wins on the season. Very
2
poor
for
season.
2.
You got that one right. The Florida Panthers, plus 36 goal differential.
That's 3.
The LA Kings, 3 home regulation losses.
Yeah.
And the Dallas Stars, 27 home wins. A perfect 5 for 5. Congratulations. Well done. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. That was good. That was
Mike can hear
tough
my
at the end.
clapping, but
Hey, good hear.
that's crazy. The Kings, though. My clapping alarmed the dogs, intruders. That's crazy. The Kings, though. The 3 home regulation losses.
Yeah, I figured theirs would probably be one of the defense ones, and I knew they were good at home, and I almost gaslit myself into picking them for a low amount of road wins because of it, until I remembered the Preds were there. I was like, wait, there's no way they have 27 home wins or
Preds
3
were the
home regulation. So
yeah, the Preds were the not so sneaky bad team amongst the group here.
if you gave me the Jets instead of the Preds, it might have messed this whole thing up.
I was going back and forth because I was like, man, I always want to include everybody. Everybody's a part of this. And so I wanted to have teams from the West and East in all divisions, but then I was like, man, I could literally just do all Central teams, and it would have been so difficult. Just having all of them in there with some of their stats. But I wanted to show love to all divisions. I love all divisions.
Show love to them by highlighting 9 road wins.
And that's the thing, man. The way the Kings are playing now, it's like that's what they want. They want to get that home ice, whether it's you win the division or you just get home ice for round 1. Like that's what they're aiming for, because when they're at home, they're tough to beat.
Yeah,
tough to beat the Kings at home.
And fuck, it looks like they're going to face each other again. Is this going to be year 4 of Oilers Kings in the first round?
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
It'll be the first time though that Kings get home ice, so at least we get a little bit of a switch up.
I can't believe that.
Nothing crazy, but it's
they just agreed. Like, yep, we're not changing. We're not even going to look into changing the playoff format. Like, I get the idea of creating rivalries, but like, you get burnt out. You get burnt out on them real quick. We didn't need this for Penguins Capitals to go absolutely nuclear. Like
we were getting it more, but we were still getting it a good amount of times.
Yeah, like it just locks teams in. It sucks not like your team is just, exactly where you're going to finish and where you're going to be playing in April back in February.
Yeah, exactly right.
Sucks when it gets locked in like that.
But that will wrap up everything for this episode. If you want to let us know how you did on today's matching, the newest game we've got here, or you want to talk hockey, or let us know your thoughts on the goalie interference. You can let us know all your thoughts around the league, as there's just so much going on. It's hard to keep track. Let us know your thoughts on Torts. Great dude. He went out on his own terms. Love it for him. You can do so for any of our socials. The links to all of them are down in the description for every episode across all platforms. Come over and talk hockey. Braden, you know what time it is. As always, final thoughts.
Oh, the St. Louis Blues are looking hot. The Sens are looking hot. There's one wild card spot in each conference that appears to be up for grabs. More so up for grabs in the East, but the Wild have not got a stranglehold on theirs yet. Let's watch over the next few weeks and see who wants to grab their opportunity.
Love it. Couldn't agree more. It's going to be an interesting race down the stretch. But that will do it for this episode. Once again, hope you all enjoyed. And as always, we will see you guys out on the ice next week.